Hey.
Another exciting episode of Life on the Ave. We're in here in season 2. Still kicking it with our theme of interviewing celebrities. So faces in the crowd, movers and shakers. And we've had some political people on. We had John Cohill on, who works in the governor's office currently.
Good dude.
Great guy. And but this is new territory for us. So we have a good friend of the program, a good friend of the team, good friend of a lot of people here in Wilmington. We got Mr. George Frankel, Democrat County Council President. What are you, runny? What is it?
Yeah, so I'm a candidate for county council
That's the
president.
word I was looking for.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Cool. Well, yeah, here. So I'll hit you. We'll give you your flowers here a little bit, read a little, background on you, and then we'll hop into it. So,
Sounds good.
And wherever it goes, dude. So,
Yeah, I'm excited.
awesome. So, George Frankel is a proud 5th-generation resident of Newcastle County who embodies a deep-rooted commitment to the community he calls home. He's the son of a former public school civics teacher and grandson of a Delaware state trooper. His journey into politics started in 2015 after United States Senator Chris Coons appointed him as Delaware Senate Page, a role that ignited his passion for public service. George's academic pursuits led him to obtain a bachelor's degree in political science and then went over to Hong Kong, where he earned a master's degree in international relations, broadening his perspective and enhancing his capacity for thoughtful leadership. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks, Mary Kate, for writing that up. That made me sound really cool. So appreciate it.
That might have been cool.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
might have been
Oh, okay.
ChatGPT.
Thanks,
Not
Cole,
sure.
too. Appreciate it.
Pretty funny.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, I would say like my first question for you, this is just something, radical, but like you've been on a campaign trail. Like, how has that campaign trail been treating George Frankel?
I think it's been going pretty well. I mean, I filed for this election back in November of 2023, so I've been campaigning since then.
Gotcha.
Obviously, it's ramped up a lot this summer as it's come along. It's surprisingly similar to the movie The Campaign with Will Ferrell. Yeah, it's actually
Will Ferrell movie.
Very underrated Will Ferrell movie. I've wrapped my truck almost inspired by that movie. I think I love it, and I thought it was actually super realistic. Unfortunately,
That's got one of the best lines ever when he sits down and goes, "Welcome to the show."
Yeah, I felt that so hard. And the first debate was in Hockessin, and that was like a trial by fire. Everybody was in there, and the gubernatorial candidates, the Senate candidates, and then I went last. Obviously, the county council president isn't high on the ticket, but yeah, it was a welcome to the show kind of moment. So
love that.
Yeah,
love that. Good for you. Yeah. And I appreciate your willingness to serve, and this seems like a ton of time, like kind of going into this. So you've definitely dedicated a ton of time to this. What has been like your reception? What should the voters know about George Frankel? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that Newcastle County, it's a special place. It's my home. It's a very historic county. We're the first county in the first state in America. I mean, so I think that means something.
Yeah.
We've got some really beautiful history here, and we've got some other things that I think I want to get on about encouraging younger people to move to the county. We've got a council here that runs our legislative body for the entire county, and that is made up of 13 members, 12 districts, so 12 council people, and 1 council president. The council president is the at-large position.
And that's what you're running for?
And that's what I'm running for.
Okay.
And, what I'm trying to do is bring some new blood into that council. The average age is a little bit over 70.
Really?
For all those 13 members. So I would bring it down significantly. I think that, bringing, like I said, a fresh set of eyes, a new perspective to what's going on in the county was going to help us plan for the future a little bit better and give a voice to some people that might not be involved in the decisions that are being made on our local government level.
Yeah. So talk me through. So you said you applied in November 2023. Like, was it just on a whim, or is this something you've been thinking about for a little while?
So Yeah, so I've been thinking about it for a little bit. I never really thought that I'd actually run, to be honest. I never thought that was something that I was going to do. I work as a government contractor. For the past 2 years, I've been head of business engagement for the Delaware Workforce Development Board. So what that means is I've basically spent thousands of hours over the past 2 years interviewing employers about what their workforce needs are, asking them, what are barriers to entry for the workforce? What is the state of our workforce? How many employees do you need? What kind of education are you looking for in your employees? What are the constant complaints? Is it transportation? Is it affordable housing?
Yeah.
Is it education? And, after going through that for 2 years and just kind of like hearing all the issues for multiple years and looking into how I might, how can I solve this as a non-elected official, just, sort of semi-bureaucrat, I guess. I kind of found that a lot of these things could be solved. You just needed somebody who was willing to, like come in on a local government level and work with zoning and work with the libraries and other things to get these issues solved. And I think that's something that you just need somebody who's got the time, availability, and the perspective to do that. And I think I have that, so.
And the energy.
Yeah, and the energy. I mean, like I don't have a lot of other things going in my, not that I don't have other things going in my life, but like I have the time. Like I'm not married. I don't have kids, not that that's a bad thing, but like it's a part-time job, county council president. And it's really like a 50-hour-a-week job that's part-time. So, I mean, you've got to have all that available if you want to do the job to its fullest extent. And I think I'm willing to do that. I am willing to do that. And I think that it's not something to be taken lightly, in choosing a candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we were just talking about like your schedule, yesterday, handful of meetings, a meet and greet up in Claymont, a debate that you were at, sort of deal. Like this is, like time intensive. And so like, what are the responsibilities of, this position, county council president? Like, what do you oversee?
So county council president, as I mentioned before, is the at-large position on county council. So there's only two at-large positions, which is voted on by the entire county, basically. There's county executive and there's county council president. County executive runs its own branch of government. They're basically the president, for lack of a better term, of Newcastle County. Then you have the county council president, which is pretty much the speaker of the house for the legislative body, except instead of being selected by the members of council, it's actually selected by the people directly through direct democracy. The things that a county council president can do is propose legislation, lead meetings, kind of lead the energy and the focus of these meetings in a way that they see fit, I think, to a certain degree. Obviously, there's limited power with that. I'm not going to be able to wave my wand and do anything I want on council. You have to work with the other 12 council members, absolutely, and the county executive.
You don't have a special George Frankel wand?
No, fortunately not. But I think constructive, conversations and dialogue between all the different representatives from the county is important. And I just think that, giving an overview perspective is also helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with your work, remind me again, what was your title of your job right now? You say you're a government contractor working for
the Delaware Workforce Development Board.
Gotcha. And so with that, you've seen everybody kind of throughout the state?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, I was kind of, we were put in this position where the workforce board needed someone to connect to employers and ask them what they needed from their perspective from the workforce board about the labor market, about workforce in general.
Yeah.
So I approached that situation by literally getting on Google and just being like pipe fitters in Sussex County and calling them all, being like accounting firms in Newark, calling all of them, just cold calling them.
Yeah.
And I ended up being able to interview hundreds of business owners, in various different industries, whether that was accounting, the trades, the financial sector in general, childcare, education overall. Like there's a lot of different things. So we try to cover the gambit of these different trades. And a lot of big things had been pointed out. A lot of statistics had been pointed out to me in my time there.
What do we got? Yeah.
So basically, all these companies are looking for employees. That was pretty much, the first question I would ask was, are you hiring? And about 70% of them said yes. You know, the second question was, okay, well, what types of positions are you hiring for? What do you think is lacking? What's needed? You know, in general, they were talking about soft skills, literacy, showing up on time, wanting to work, you know, the general gripe.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is a lot of foundational things to that. We here in the state of Delaware are 45th in the nation for reading proficiency. 75% of our fourth graders can't read, according to those same statistics. We are 50th out of 50 states in the nation for passing the EMT exam, for example. Every single fire hall in the state is down EMTs and firefighters.
Yeah.
You know, the county police are down 65 officers alone. There's only 2 county police that actually go south of the canal at the moment. So for Middletown, Townsend, and Odessa, and that whole area, where it's basically like north of Smyrna, south of the canal, that whole zone, there's only 2 county police that can be down there at any given time.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at, like with your experience in your current job. Like everybody loves to rip on Delaware for being a small state, but like Newcastle County as an area, it's big.
Huge.
Like Claymont all the way down to that
Townsend.
MOT area. And like there's a lot of different walks of life.
Ton.
Throughout that. So it's not lost on me. Hey, this is a lot of people in this area. Like, what's the population of Newcastle County? It's right around 500,000.
Yeah, it's about 500,000. It's more than half of the state of Delaware's population lives in Newcastle County. But Sussex County is growing. Sussex County is the fastest growing county in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast combined.
Really?
Has been for quite some time.
Yeah, that's crazy. And like with this position, like you're going to be exposed to a lot of different people. And like I like what you said. Like it does kind of just come back to these, at least from my perspective, these fundamental issues that we're talking about. So like the literacy, yeah. It's just crazy.
It's wild, and we're not making sure that our young people in the state are prepared to enter the workforce properly. And I think that's us dropping the ball a big time. And employers can't. There's only so much you can do when you get to that level. At 18, 19, 20, 25 years old, if you never learn to really read past like first, second, third grade level. So it's really quite tough. There's a number of things I'd like to get done with the library. So the duties of county government are we're in control of all 15 of the libraries, whether they're in the city or otherwise.
Okay.
We're in control of the county police, the county paramedics. So all the paramedics are run by the county government, whether you're in the city or otherwise.
Gotcha.
We also deal with sewage. We deal with zoning matters and unincorporated zones. So the city of Wilmington, for example, is an incorporated area. It has its own city government, its own city council. They make their own zoning decisions. But areas like Claymont, Bellefonte, Pike Creek, those areas are all unincorporated areas. So all the zoning matters, whether or not we want to build something here or there, how tall the building is, or landscape, all that stuff runs through county land use decisions.
And like, do you sign off on those, or like?
So they come before the council, and that's how they. There's the land use department that runs under the executive branch, and then there's the council that has to vote on changing certain land use. So, for example, if you have an area that's a farm and it's zoned agricultural, somebody wants to buy it and turn it into commercial or residential, that would have to go before the council and be voted upon. And in that time, all Newcastle County residents, especially ones in that area, can come up and voice their opinions on whether or not they would like that to happen. We recently had what was called the comprehensive rezoning plan. Went through about a year ago. I want to say it was in the wintertime was when it really kind of broke out, but it was 87 different parcels of land in the county that were all being rezoned at one time.
Really?
So if you remember, there was the Insight plant over in Alapocas.
Huge.
There was the hydrogen facility in Delaware City. There's several warehouses in the MOT area. There was a Wawa thrown in there. There was a couple parks that were getting rezoned. But basically, there was a huge gambit of different things that were going to be very impactful to all the residents living in the area. And they were all bundled into one piece of legislation to be voted on one time. And thousands of residents shot up in anger, basically saying, we were not told that these were going through. We were not told that this kind of stuff was happening. And I think it was really just a miscommunication from the county government and the local county government to the residents. So one of the things I think we could do to increase transparency is to create an opt-in text and email program from the county where residents can put in their home address, their phone number, and their email. And whenever there is a issue, whenever there's a zoning variance or something's getting rezoned within a quarter mile of where you live, you'll get a text and an email saying the time, date, and place for you to come voice your opinion at the zoning hearing. I think that that's going to really help us push through a lot of things, because even the developers are in favor of this, because what happens is they come into an area, they get told everything is legal. They spend a year trying to develop out a project, lawyers, architects, fees and permits, all kinds of stuff. And they think everything's fine, and then the community hears about it because it finally got to their ears a year later. Then they say, you were hiding this from me. We're going to shut this whole thing down. We don't even care what you're building. It could be, some sweet, free swimming pool for everyone, with a water slide. I don't care. I don't trust you. It's going to go down. And they've just wasted millions of dollars in a year of their time trying to develop that property. And now the residents are upset. The developers are upset. They've wasted money. And I think that's really just a miscommunication on the part of the county. So if we get ahead of these issues early on, we can either if the idea is really bad, we'll just shut it down. If it's, we want to build a toxic waste dump in Alapocas, people probably aren't going to like that. Not going to happen. And they can just say, hey, no, we're not doing that. But if it's a good idea, the comments and the constructive criticism early on will help shape those developments to better reflect the needs and the wants of the community that's going to be affected by that development. So I think we'll have better development. It'll go faster. It'll be better. And anything that's bad doesn't get in.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, what we're, talking about and what we started off with is just this change, this, changing of the guard. Like you mentioned, the county council members, their average age is over 70. I'm sure that they struggle with, technology, email, text message. Is that fair to say?
It can be at times. I don't want to bash you. I mean, the council members are great. I'm not here to bash them. And I'm not saying that, we shouldn't have older council members, but I think that it's always good to have a diverse, viewpoints on the council. And I think age is another level of diversity that I think is missing from a lot of our local governments. So I would encourage anybody who's interested. We need more people to run for city councils, county councils, school boards, all these kinds of things. And it's really not that difficult. You just go to the Delaware Department of Elections in the city of Wilmington. You fill out a form, you write a little check, and you're good to go. I mean, you're on the ballot. So please, anybody, and if anybody's interested, you want to talk to me about it, I'm more than happy to help you with it.
Yeah. And these are just massive, issues. This is stuff that do you ever feel just hey, I'm just one person? Because you are going to have, a voice of the people here, and what do the people want? How has your few things that you've been running on been received by the people? The libraries, we'll talk about Lavender King. You're the Lavender King out there. Sewer in these things. How have your ideas been received thus far?
I think they've been received fairly well. I mean, I've gotten some pushback on the lavender since it's non-native, but we can go into how it's non-invasive and other things. But other than that, they've been received fairly well. I mean, my general goal is to bring, common sense and critical thinking. I'm not really trying to reinvent the wheel or do anything too crazy. But generally, what are the needs of Newcastle County? Everybody wants better quality of life. We need more housing units. That's zoning. So we need more housing units to be built. That's just a supply and demand issue for the housing market, of which I'm sure you're well aware. So, that's something where, we can really step in and try and smooth along that process. So like I said, housing, using our services that are provided by the county, like libraries, police, paramedics, making sure that those things are top notch for our residents is important. Making sure that the environment is clean and safe, making sure our parks are well funded. All these sorts of things are there to improve quality of life. And that's my main goal, is to save the county money and to improve quality of life at the same time. Those are and any way I can do that, that's that's a home run for me.
Love it. Yeah. So have you come up with like, your first 100 days in office?
So one of the first things I'd like to get done, and this is
It's like a sexy thing politicians do.
right.
You know,
Look,
they're the first 100 days in office.
there are
Yeah.
a couple of things I think I can get done that would just be sort of easy to pass, doesn't cost anything.
Mhm.
So the first thing I'd like to get done is for public safety. Actually, Captain Rezai over here on the west side invented a website.
Great captain.
Great guy. But he invented a website where you can actually upload footage from your Ring doorbell cameras or your phone of suspicious activity, crime, hit and runs outside your house, burglaries. And he said that they've. I mean, I have to maybe check the number on this, but he said he's seen about 20% decrease in crime since implementing this program 2 years ago.
Nice.
The county doesn't have such a thing.
Okay.
So county residents can't submit their footage the same way that city residents can. And I think that just literally rinse and repeating that on the county PD level would expand this and hopefully help relieve some of the burden of the county PD that's already down 65 officers without costing us anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's some way that we can leverage technology and modern technology to help with our public safety that doesn't hurt our bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that, like you just said, like, hey, we're not reinventing the wheel. Like we're already doing this here in the city.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that would be, fantastic because like public safety is huge. When I first moved to Wilmington from Delaware County, my family was like, dude, like, what are you doing in Wilmington? I was like, it's actually like really nice.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's, fantastic areas and like anywhere, there's some areas that definitely need some love. And like I've just noticed on the WPD side, like we get signed up, like Cole and I are signed up for Nixle reports, which is how WPD, advertises stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's wild. They'll put out, either like a missing person alert or like, hey, this happened here. And then, a week later, it's like, hey, we found this person. Here it is. Like, and I'm like, wow, like they're actually closing cases.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have faith in WPD. And I think the first responders are huge in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're desperate for them. I mean, like I said, we don't have any more. We're down EMTs, we're down firefighters, we're down paramedics, we're down police. We don't have. They're getting burnt out. I mean, we're down RNs. And this is getting to something. I'm kind of going off in a different direction. I can come back, but on the workforce end, some of the crazy stats that I learned were that in Delaware, we're the third oldest state in the nation. We're going to have, according to the Philadelphia Fed, which was at one of our workforce events, the head of the Philadelphia Fed came and told us that we're going to have more people in Delaware over the age of 55 than under the age of 55 in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, this stat is also coupled with the fact that we're one of the only states in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast with a growing population. Maine and Delaware are the only two states with a growing population. Well, we're only growing with retirees.
Yeah.
So we have a massive influx of retirees moving to the state, mostly south of the canal, but in other areas too, for our low property taxes, 47th lowest property tax.
Yeah, we see it every day
in the country.
Yeah.
But what we don't have is a younger workforce that's there to help them. I mean, Christiana Care's down over 1,500 RNs. And they have been for years. There are whole like nursing. I forget the name of the nursing center down the road, but off the top of my head, but there's whole nursing facilities that can't open wings of their facilities because they don't have enough RNs to meet ratio. I mean, we get 10,000 more calls to 911 in the county now than we did 10 years ago, but we haven't increased the amount of paramedics that we have. And it's not because, we don't have money for the paramedics or that we're not trying to do this, which we should increase their pay, but like, we can't get enough people to become paramedics.
Yeah.
So they're working 60, 70-hour weeks because they have to keep us safe. And there's no relief in sight for them. So I think we need to encourage, for the same reasons New York Times said that Delaware is the #1 state in the nation last week for retirees. It should be the same thing said. It's the #1 state in the nation for a young person to buy their first home, for a young person to start a family, because we have these low taxes. We have no sales tax. We've got 47th lowest property tax in the nation. And a lot of this is due to the banking laws that are here, and 30% of our state income is actually made up of companies that basically just have a mailbox here.
Yeah.
So we get 30% off everything essentially. And we're right here on the I-95 corridor. I mean, we've got 4 temperate seasons. We were talking about insurance earlier. I mean, our homeowners insurance is lower. We're not in real danger of tornadoes or hurricanes or, major flooding or anything like that, at least not in Newcastle County. There's some other areas in the state that are. But
we recently had a client who bought a condo here, and she was very worried about climate change and tornadoes. And I was like, I don't think that they're too crazy.
It's real, but I mean, you can't really get much safer than northern Newcastle County,
Yeah.
Wilmington. It's pretty safe here. But yeah, I mean, those kinds of things, they all affect our insurance rates, and there's a lot of states like Florida, Louisiana, Southern California that, insurers are not even giving insurance to a lot of these homeowners now, and middle of the country as well, because of so many claims and so many changes in our environment. But Delaware is actually a bit sheltered from that, from my knowledge. I mean, I'm no insurance expert, but I think that's another kind of sell. And I can talk about the history of Wilmington. Like I said earlier, we're the first county in the first state in America.
Yeah.
We've got the oldest continually operating church in America. We've got, and that is, Old Swedes Church. It's the oldest continual operating church in America. We've got the oldest Black church in America, Mother Emanuel Church over in Cool Springs. We've got the oldest Black social club in America, which is the Monday Club. We've got the oldest family-owned Irish pub in America, which is Kelly Logan House, right there. I mean, so we have so much history. We have really cool architecture. I mean, Winter, Nemours, Hagley. We've got, the 7th oldest university in America is the University of Delaware. So we have so much history. We really have a lot of beauty here, natural beauty, architectural beauty. So I think highlighting all those things is a good play to encourage younger people to move here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we'll be wrapping up here in a quick sec, but what is that stigma that young people could, because you did it a little bit, you went out and traveled the world here a little bit, but then you came back, and I think that's been the journey for a lot of young people. So do we want them to just stay here the whole time, or how do we get these people here? Is it more run clubs? Is it more pickleball clubs?
Yeah, I think run clubs great. No, I mean, I think a lot of people, at least from my perspective, in my generation, I'm 27. A lot of people are looking for some sort of sense of community, a way to buy their first home, a way to grow somewhere with people with the same ideas and similar ages and things like that. And I think that major cities, New York, DC, even Philly, Boston, you're looking at $1 million or more to buy a home there.
It's tough.
It's not really possible. The way that our salaries are structured, I mean, the game is already kind of not. It's not possible.
Totally in favor against
young people. And you don't really want to work in paycheck to paycheck kind of environments just so that you can hang out with your friends.
All right, cool. So 2 topics that you wanted to get to, raw sewage and lavender. Which one do you want to start off with first?
Let's start off with the sewage, because I'm going off on that. So as I mentioned, the county government is responsible for water treatment and sewage. One of the things I think we could do is DC, which has the largest water treatment facility on the planet, actually, is what they do is they siphon off their raw sewage into a methane digester. And why is this important? So what we do in the county is we actually dump our raw sewage into the rivers, or we burn it. That's the traditional methods of getting rid of it. And I actually took a picture. I don't know if we could show it on there or what, but it's
Patrick.
It's literally a sign over in 40 acres that says, caution, raw sewage overflow into the creek behind our houses here. And that's not a good thing for our quality of life. I mean, we want to be able to protect our areas. We want to be able to protect ourselves from these kinds of things. And a way that I think the county could remedy this is updating our sewage system to include a methane digester. So what that means is we would be dumping our raw sewage into essentially kind of like a pit that's lined, obviously.
And where would this be?
This would be at the water treatment facility plant that's outside the city. It's actually by the golf course,
Rock Manor.
Yeah, okay. Rock Manor over in North Plum. And so what we would do is this is all loose, I haven't gone there and surveyed all this yet, but it has happened in Pima County, California, and DC. You would fill these methane digesters with your sewage, And then they would collect over time methane, which is natural gas. And then that methane would be used to power your water treatment facility plants. So it'd be a closed energy loop. So we'd actually save money on electricity.
Really?
And we wouldn't have to dump our raw sewage into the rivers or burn it. And the byproduct of this is actually fertilizer. So then the county can use the byproduct of fertilizer. So we wouldn't have to, the county parks wouldn't have to buy fertilizer. We can just use our own. We can couple this with other things, like I was talking to Chesapeake Utility about this, and one of the biggest releasers of methane, which is the most harmful greenhouse gas, is they mapped the whole state. And what they did was they found that these big plumes were actually roadkill. So roadkill gives off a huge amount of methane.
Yeah.
And I called DelDOT and I asked, well, what do you do with the roadkill? And they said, well, we throw it in the dumpster, or we put it in the tar pits, which they use to make the roads.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what if we just took the roadkill off your hands and put it in the methane digester, which actually would help culture a lot of that sewage? And it seems like that could be something that we could hit two birds, one stone on that issue. Eliminate the greenhouse gases that we're emitting from our landfills and from the roadkill, and also collect that methane to be used as energy to power our water treatment facility plants. And that kind of leads me to another thing that I'd like to do called phytoremediation. So we've got 5 super fun sites, which are toxic waste dumps in the county. And some of them are over 500 acres, like the one in Delaware City.
Okay, that's
and
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And the Newcastle Airport is one, that area. But what we can do is actually plant certain types of plants on those areas, and they will suck out the lead, arsenic, and other harmful chemicals out of the ground. And the best way to get rid of them is actually cut those plants down and put them into a composter or digester, which will, like, the enzymes will actually break down a lot of those elements. And some of those plants are sunflowers for the drier areas. And in the wetlands, it would be cattails. Both are native to the area for my knowledge.
Yeah.
So, can you imagine driving down the road and instead of seeing a toxic waste fill, you see 500 acres of sunflowers?
Beautiful.
And we spend millions of dollars trying to wrap these areas in plastic, to contain them for another 100 years so that they don't give everybody cancer, basically.
Yeah. So like that is just such like a large issue that I'm like trying to like wrap my head around. But
sorry. Yeah.
you succinctly, it's like, okay, yeah, like why aren't we doing this right now? And why aren't we?
No, and they use that kind of method to clean up like Chernobyl, for example. That's how they were cleaning up Chernobyl, and they still are with sunflowers.
Really?
There's lots of other toxic spills that this method has been used before, and it's a super cost-effective method.
Yeah.
When you talk about the millions of dollars and that goes into trying to wrap it in plastic, for lack of a better word, I mean, this is much more cost-effective, and the results are, to my knowledge, a lot better. Not to mention just quality of life stuff. Like I said, it just makes our drives a lot nicer, makes our environment, more positive. I mean,
Sounds like a win-win.
6 months out of the year, you're going to be driving by huge sunflower fields. I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we're on the flower kick, we'll get into our another initiative. But you are the spokesperson for lavender.
So so I mean, and I'm no horticulturist or anything, but I was doing some research on plants that are the most profitable plants. I was trying to think, how can we save our agricultural space? How can we save open space here in the county? And the county has 100+ acres, maybe even more. I haven't done full survey on of land that we have to mow and maintain every year, that are adjacent to our county buildings, adjacent to our parks. In these just general areas that people kind of overlook. It costs us quite a bit of money and a lot of staff, manpower to mow these things. And what I'd like to do and explore this is to plant lavender in all these areas. Now, why would I want to do that? The lavender is the 4th most profitable plant to grow on Earth. Yields over $20,000 an acre. We've got some farmers down in Townsend. I visited some farms with Pat actually over in South Jersey.
Nice.
There's some more in Kennett Square. It's growing into a more known industry in the area. But like I said, it's the 4th most profitable plant to grow on Earth. English lavender, that strain, grows very well in Delaware. It requires very little water.
I actually have lavender in front of my house.
There we go. Yeah, it's so proof, proof it will grow.
Yeah.
To all the
low maintenance.
Yeah, very low maintenance. It kind of almost grows like a weed, honestly. And I was thinking I've worked with the Delaware Horticulture Society a little bit over the past 2 years on their workforce program called Branches to Chances, where they take people coming out of the prison system, suffering from homelessness. They work with them. They teach them how to do landscaping. They get them resumes, things like that. Maybe contracting with them so that they could come out once a year and harvest that lavender, and then we sell it wholesale. I've plugged the idea to Dogfish Head. We'll see if they actually run with it. But their lavender is used to make a lot of beer. Actually, like it's one of the ingredients that's used pretty heavily in making beer. If they, like a lot of craft beers and things like that. And be interesting if we could sell all of our lavender in bulk to them or somebody else local. Flower shops like Flowers by Yuki was interested in purchasing, on a regular basis. And
love that.
So I think that we would have a customer base here for that, and we could just bulk off sell it. Almost at once a year, just kind of have a flash sale for it. But the real cool thing about that would be that would, at 100 acres, that's $2 million a year that we could line item that money in the legislation. That would mean that it would go directly to the parks every year. It grows for 10 to 15 years after it's planted. So for 10 to 15 years, the Newcastle County Park System could basically bet that they're going to get a consistent $2 million a year of funding at that rate. These are rough numbers, but what they need, I think, consistency so that they can come up with a long-term plan, to have a sustainable park system. So it's not like every year they're fighting for federal or local grant money to do this one-time thing for a swing set in one park. It's like, okay, we have a baseline and nobody can touch it. When we go into a deficit, they're not going to cut our budget because they can't touch this pot of money. It's just for us. And I think that's important to keep that way for our parks, because we're going to have a deficit in spending probably in the county for the first time in over a decade this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That, like, just the knowledge that you just dropped in the last half hour, I'm kind of blown away by. And it seems like you have a fantastic grasp on all this stuff. You've obviously, been going over it and everything and stuff like that. So, for the people out there, how do we, get out and, just vote in general? What are the big dates coming up, and what do we got going on there?
So, the big election is really the primary. The primary is this September 10th. You have to be a registered Democrat in Newcastle County, but all people in Newcastle County, whether you're a city resident or just a county resident, anyone who lives inside the confines of Newcastle County who's a registered Democrat can vote for me on September 10th. So I'd hope that I can earn your guys' vote. And if you have any questions for me, you can go to georgefrankel.org. My email and my cell phone number are on there, so feel free to give me a call. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pretty frequently. I mean, and you have some people, I'm the guy with the I Heart George signs.
Oh, we know.
I've had some people reach out to me. One of the coolest things was this one woman had her mother, I guess her father had passed away. His name was George. And her mother drove by my signs every day over on Augustine Cutoff, I think was the one. And she said that it made her day every day. And she asked me after the election, can I have one of your signs? And I'm like, of course. She wants to put it in her garden. And I'm like, of course, because it reminds her of her husband. So
I want one right now to you.
Yeah, that's why I said I emailed her. I was like, I'll just give you one right now. But yeah. So I mean, it's cool stuff like that. I've been getting a lot of positive support. Friends and family, you guys, everybody's been really supportive, and this has been a really good journey for me. And I very much so expect to win. I hope to win. But the journey has been great, and I'm not going anywhere, staying here. I'm here to work, and I'm happy to be a part of Newcastle County.
I love that. Yeah. And who came up with that slogan, I Heart George?
That was me.
Nice.
So it was kind of like I was like, I kind of wanted to do like an I Hate Steven Zinger thing.
Yeah.
Where everybody was kind of, because I had always grown up seeing that and being like, what is that? And it kind of always grabbed my attention. And then there's a movie called I Love You Man with Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
And where he's got the billboards and he does the ridiculous marketing through the billboard.
Hilarious.
I couldn't afford billboards. They're like $10,000, but
they're so expensive.
But the signs are like, I can put that together for like $50.
Yeah.
So, that was my bootstrap kind of cheap version of
I love it.
guerrilla marketing.
Yeah. How is that like just walking around? Because like my name is all over Newcastle County as well too, like in signs and stuff like that. And it is kind of like a pinch me moment. Like every time, you know, I drive past a house that I sold or something like that, I'm like, hey, I sold that house, right? And I don't want to be pointing out to the kids like, you know, hey, I showed that house one time, right?
Yeah.
Like how is that just driving around and just seeing, you know, the George Frankel green sign? Like is it still like a pinch me moment? Like has it lost its luster yet?
I don't know. It's still a bit weird, but like, you know, I mean, it's all right. Like I mean, I never really wanted to like be that public.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to be to do this, and I really thought that that was the only way that I could garner attention and bring light to these issues. And we didn't talk about my library thing, but the library thing's my like passion project, like filling all 15 of our county libraries with hooked on phonics style reading tutors, running the buses directly from the public schools to all 15 of our county libraries, and then having the activities bus, the sports bus pick the kids up and come home afterwards. I'm a dyslexic. I personally learned how to read in the Brandywine 100 library. I got held back in the first grade. I got told I was never going to finish high school.
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know, this is something that really was a part of my life in a big way. And, you know, seeing these statistics on our kids and their inability to read, quite frankly, is something that jolted me into thinking, how are we going to solve this problem? We spent hundreds of millions of dollars renovating our libraries, but for the most part, they're kind of empty. So not fully, you know, don't come at me for it, everybody, the library, but like they could be utilized better. They're a beautiful piece. They're gorgeous. We got robotics labs, black box theater. Nine has lobster mac and cheese. The county pays for a chef there.
Really?
They're really good, actually. It's incredible food.
Yeah.
So highly encourage, if anybody hasn't been in the Route 9 library, go get the lobster mac and cheese. It's unreal. But yeah, I mean, so that kind of stuff. I mean, and if I wanted to do these kinds of things, if I wanted to have this immediate impact on my community, I needed to be the corny guy who puts the I Heart George sign on the side of the road so that people could figure out who I am and vote for me. I think that's important.
Yeah. I had a similar mantra like when I first got into real estate. Like being in real estate is corny, and if I'm going to be successful, I need to be the corniest realtor out there.
Yeah,
hence everything you see today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Right? I got a giant photo of my face covered in lavender in the back of my car. Like, go and ask me about lavender. It's like this corniest thing you could possibly do. But I mean, you know, I want people to ask me about lavender. I think that these are cool things, and you know, I hope that all works out, and you know, I'm not missing anything in that idea. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like I've had any real major objections. It's non-invasive. It is not native, so that's a huge point of contention. But I think if we supplement that with grass and other native wildflowers around there, we can culture an environment where the pollinators, the bees and everything are actually doing very well in those areas. Not to mention lavender actually repels mosquitoes, flies, and most importantly, ticks. And we have one of the highest percentages in the nation for Lyme's disease.
Yes.
So hopefully cutting down on that, again, quality of life issues, like getting back to like, how do we improve the quality of life for residents here and make it more attractive for people to come here? Hopefully, you know, the residents, the local residents, I encourage everybody, if they can, own their home, because I'm intending to make this place really quite special. It is amazingly special now, but I'm really intending to shed a light on this area and trying to make sure that we're not overlooked in the coming years, and that we retain our young people and we encourage young people to come here.
Love that. Well, yeah, this has been fantastic. We'll wrap it up here with a few just like, you know, personal questions. So, George Frankel, tonight's a Friday night. What's a typical Friday night look like for George Frankel?
Past like 9 months has been a lot of like sitting in my house, to be honest. Like if it's really late, like I'll probably get home and I just kind of want to chill.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes I go to Logan House. Sometimes I go to Oyster. My parents live behind Buckley's, so sometimes I go over there. But yeah, no, I can't even remember. I mean, last Friday I had a bunch of my fraternity brothers from the College of Charleston drove in to support. Saturday morning, we woke up at 5 a.m. and went down to Middletown for the Peach Festival, which was great.
Love that.
So it was just I got a nice little patio, hang out back there, you know, listen to music and drink a beer or something. Yeah.
Just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personal question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Are you single?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking?
Yeah. Not at the. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
but
kind of busy at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody wants to involve themselves in what I got going on at the moment. Like it would be a lot of dragging around to like events and shaking people's hands, and I think that'd be a lot to ask of somebody. So I think for right now, this is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is all right, and if it happens, I'm all for it. But I'm not really diving in.
Love that. Love that. And then last two questions here. So, you shouted out some local businesses. Any other local businesses? Any restaurants you want to give a nod to? Where does George Frankel like to frequent?
So love water ice. I'm a huge water ice guy.
You actually used to sell water ice.
I did. I sold water ice.
Entrepreneur.
I had a batch freezer in my college house in college. There was no water ice in Charleston, and I was like, it's so hot here. These people, they would love water ice. It's the greatest thing ever. So I bought a batch freezer off Alibaba, and I had my cousin and I, like, he's an engineering student at UD. He helped me kind of like make it so it wasn't so loose and not nice, like a little bit lower quality machine. But we were able to produce some really good water ice. Unfortunately, I didn't have licenses, so they kind of shut me down a little bit. I ended up mixing booze in it a little, doing other things. Yeah. And so I ended up like doing like more internal stuff for sororities and fraternities and mixing booze, and it was really fun. But Fusco's water ice is great. We've been buying them to Fusco's water ice to give out at some events. They're old school. They're great. Best ingredients around. I can't, what a cultural staple, water ice. Like, it's one of my favorite things in the world. So shout out Fusco's.
Shout out Fusco's. Yeah.
They rock.
Yeah.
Also, Nick's Pizza, best pizza, I think, maybe in Delaware. Hopefully that doesn't like anger anyone, but I think Nick's Pizza, best cheesesteak and best pizza probably.
Nick's fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I don't know them personally, but I've been eating their pizza and it's really stellar.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And Fusco's, I love to tell the story. Not sure if you saw, but like one of the first times I had Fusco's, I got it for my daughter, and I was like, "Hey man, can I get a spoon?" He goes, "No spoons."
No spoons.
Like, dude, she's one.
Yeah.
Like, can you get my girl a spoon? He's like, nah.
No,
I was like,
they don't even have them there at all. Like, I think they have like a wood stick maybe, but I don't know how often
they beat you with.
Yeah, it's like a little stick or something, but I don't think they have a plastic spoon now.
That's too funny. And then last question here. You mentioned like the Peach Festival. Favorite like Delaware thing. So, whether that be a festival, an event, like what does George Frankel get excited for about Delaware?
Favorite Delaware thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, as a kid growing up, the flower market was always like the biggest thing. Italian festival is always huge.
Yeah.
Like that, come spring, early summer, all the different markets and festivals here in Wilmington are just unbelievably fun. The food's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that those things are always a highlight of my year. The Hagley fireworks is pretty cool. For like they do it like 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
That's always great. So my mom is a history teacher, civics teacher, so I spent a good portion of my childhood just like being forced to wander around. She worked at Hagley for a little bit, like Winter, Hagley, Nemours, just kind of walking around those areas. Old Newcastle is also great.
Beautiful.
Everyone always forget. I always forget. Old Newcastle literally looks exactly like Charleston. You walk around down there, it's gorgeous. I mean, everyone wants to go down to Charleston. It's like Old Newcastle is just as pretty. It's old. It's the same type style thing.
Yeah.
They've got the best thrift store I've been to in years is in Old Newcastle. It's behind the cafe, and I forget the name of both those things, but it's right near Jessup's Tavern. So behind this cafe that's like 100 feet from Jessup's Tavern, which is like a 300-year-old bar in Newcastle. There's a thrift store, and they have the best quality stuff for the best price I've seen, like in years, anywhere in any city. So
I'm gonna go check that out.
Yeah, 100%.
Put it right on the list.
Yeah, it's super cool. Old Newcastle, go spend an afternoon there. A day in Old Newcastle. I did that for the first time this year. Incredible. All the vendors. It's like they did a parade, and then they have all the vendors, and then they have live music out on the Battery on the riverfront there, like right on the Delaware River. That was one of the coolest things I've done as an adult, like to date in Delaware. And they have all the local vendors, for food and booze and everything. This is just a really, really, really fun event that I've never actually been to. So highly recommend a day in Old Newcastle next year for anybody who's around in about, I think it's like May, June.
Love that. Yeah, I think it was like June 7th this year. I had it on the schedule, but we had something going on. Well, yeah, George, thank you so much for the time. Anything else you want to tell the crowd, our audience, our fans?
No, I mean, if you see me around, live on Riddle Avenue, frequently in the Trolley Square area, I got a truck with my face on it. Feel free to stop me, say hi, ask me any questions you think that I didn't answer on the show or anything you might think that needs to happen with the county. I'd love to hear everybody else's perspective on what they think needs to happen with the county, because I can come up with ideas all day long, but it doesn't mean that they're any good. So please let me know what you guys think. And I'd really appreciate your support on September 10th.
Awesome. Well, George, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
That wraps up another exciting episode of Life on the Ave with Mr. George Frankel, candidate for County Council President here in Newcastle County, Delaware. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Love y'all.